Hi guys, Darrell Smith from South Dakota again. I say South Dakota because that's where I live. I was born and raised, and my wife and I both were raised in West Tennessee, but by hook and crook and traveling around the world, we ended up in South Dakota. Sometimes when I tell people that I live in South Dakota, they frown and say, "Why?" Uh, South Dakota is a farming state, and there is a lot of wide open spaces, and the freeway speed is at 80 miles an hour, so you can. The eastern part of the state is flat, and the road is so you can run at 80 miles an hour, hour after hour, to get to the western part, which has the Black Hills and Rapid City, and it's really a good place to live. It's like there's a lot to do around here, and we've enjoyed it. It's probably our favorite place to live, even though we've lived many places. Um, Today I got a little story about an attack mission that was assigned uh, years ago, when early on my flying career, and the name of the story is A Dose of Reality. But first, just today, I got word that Larry R. Gibson, a fellow Marine, a TAC pilot, by the way, and a good man, and he was my writing mentor. I hadn't even considered writing the stories of my life until he came along. He said, "You've had an exciting life. You've done a lot of things. Don't let those stories die. Write them down so that your people that come along after you will be able to learn what you were about." Well, today he was put in hospice. I think he's 86 or 87 years old. And his health hadn't been good for the last few years, but he finally has been put into hospice, and he won't last for very long. Larry once said, "Flying attack missions in these jets is dangerous." He said, "You can do everything exactly right and follow the procedures to the letter, but the little jet can kill you anyway." It's a dangerous job. So it's kind of developed that the military pilot developed a sense of dark humor. There was an old saying that passed through the history of naval aviation, and it's kind of naughty a little bit. When things got really tough, this phrase would pop up, and it said, "Wings of gold, bars of brass, you can shove them up your, what there." And so that type of humor sort of developed. I witnessed it once in Vietnam. A pilot had been assigned a mission into a place, a location where a lot of ground fire had been received in the last few days. And his friend said to him before he left, he said, "If you don't make it back, can I have your air mattress?" So it's just kind of the attitude of pilots trying to deal with the stress and danger. Well, but today's mission is, I mentioned, a dose of reality. I'd been in training. We'd done all the procedures. You would use the aircraft as a weapon in practice, but not in reality. I was sent from my squadron to the group headquarters, and pilots from my squadron and other squadrons were gathered into a room, and the doors were closed, and we had a briefing. The briefing was that this was contingency planning for if it ever came to armed conflict with Cuba, that we would be used. We were assigned individual targets. My target was a radar site on the Isle of Pines. And so we were led into a secret briefing room. There was tables there with maps laid out of the southern part of the United States and, of course, Cuba. The big plan was that we would fly our aircraft unarmed to Key West, Florida, at which point they would put the proper armament on our airplanes. And if the time came for us to actually make an attack, we would all take off together, many warplanes, and cross the Imaginary line at about the same time. And that would be only about 90 miles from Cuba, and we would be going fast. So we were hopefully the Cubans would not realize they were under attack until we were almost there. So as mentioned, my target was on the Isle of Pines. My route of flight would take me just to the west of Havana. I would stay treetop level at high speed all the way until I got to an initial point. At that time, I would pull my aircraft into a steep climb under full power and zoom to about 10,000 feet. At 10,000 feet, I would roll inverted and pull the nose down to the general direction of the radar site and release my rockets, fire my rockets. If everything worked right, the rockets would detect the radar signal and follow it and detonate at the proper altitude, hopefully disabling that facility. Well, thank goodness the people that were in charge worked out a system so that we did not have to fly this particular mission. But it was a wake-up call for me in that I realized that I had signed up for a very serious occupation. We did not fly into Cuba, but within a very short time, maybe a year, just about everybody in my squadron were deployed to the war in Vietnam. I was there for 1 year, so I discovered that it's a very dangerous occupation, and I feel very fortunate that I lived to be able to tell this little story. So several of my friends and squadron mates weren't that lucky. They did not make it back. So anyway, that's just a little talk about one of the phases of training and actual combat. I'll have more stories about aviation. I hope I don't bore you too much. Thank you very much.